And welcome everyone to our 5 o'clock session today on the second day of the VSTE conference. I'm Tim Stommer, and with me is Mary Smith, and we're both on the conference committee. And I'm pleased to introduce Elise Benz. And she's going to be talking about something with an intriguing title of Future Reentry. So Elise, take it away, introduce yourself, and we'll see what you got to say.
Hi, so it's great to be here tonight, and thank you for having me. My name is Elise Benzie. I'm an ITC at Woodbridge Middle School in Prince William County, Virginia, and I'm sorry to do this, but I'm going to kind of try and help make sure my co-host does somehow make it to us, because I do want her to come. But I worked on this presentation with another Prince William County ITC, and so we are going to kind of examine 3 tools that are something we want to make sure gets sustained with what we have begun as part of this whole pandemic survival process. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and then get us started with our recording.
Did we stall or?
Is it going on your end, Elise?
It does not seem to be playing on here.
Let's see. Start over and try again. Piece that we just looked at about pedagogy. Peggy is with us. I can see her now. She's hiding as Sean. But the biggest piece for us was we talked so much about all these different models, and we talked so much about implementing tech in the classrooms. And because we were put in the position of surviving this pandemic experience, things that we had been trying to convince people were great tools, were great things, were great models, have become things that people have now started to buy into. So we're centering ourselves around this conversation of what are we going to do when we get back in the room and they decide they want to go back to worksheets and dittos and textbooks and all the things that we've been trying to prize people away from and rip out of their hands, that they were forced to drop. We want them to try and continue to hold on to this return to our learning environment, meaning that tech doesn't lose its importance. The tech is just as important when we're back together.
is Shruti Sungbi. I'm an educator within Prince William County, Virginia, and I work as a math and science teacher at the alternative high school. So I'm here to tell you about the beautiful results from Flipgrid. Flipgrid can be used in math, science, social studies, with EL students, with students with learning disabilities. I've used it in the class and I've used it virtually. In the class, I've given students a problem and they were asked to solve the problem on their own. They could perhaps use me as, hey, can I check this over kind of thing. But other than that, after they completed it, they kind of decided what they were going to say and they filmed themselves. After the initial hesitancy, the replies and the films were beautiful and students really seemed to kind of be tickled by it because they could change the filters, they can change the frames, they can put text and so forth, all these different effects so they can personalize it. It can also be used with EL students. EL students can hear themselves while they're reading. They can play back their videos and then they can also re-record if they're not happy. So virtually and in person, you do the same thing. You send out the link and make sure that the link is live and ask them to record. As a teacher, you can definitely ask or set up the settings with no comments or let's say no public viewing and so forth. However, if you wanted them to comment on each other's, then you would just keep it open for the classroom or whoever has that link. You can use it in science to talk about climate change, endangered species. You could use it in English to talk about books that they are reading, voice, plot, characterization. You could use it in social studies to discuss Sacagawea's role as a guide for Lewis and Clark. It can be really used with anything. I would say that virtually and in person, the only difference is that virtually you might have to tweak the written directions and actually show students how to get on, whereas in person I was able to go student to student and explain things if I needed to. Anyway, that is all I have to say about Flipgrid, but you should definitely try it. It's amazing. I loved hearing all the responses and I love the smiles and the giggles and it was just beauty and music to my ears. Thanks.
So we had that teacher come with a testimonial and share with us how she's been implementing Flipgrid. But in the chat, would anybody who has been using Flipgrid or thinks that they might be able to use Flipgrid in their practice, just pop a message in there if you're currently using Flipgrid. Peggy and I both have used it in different settings with different groups of kids. Our Ls use it annually to get ready for their speaking test because it's an opportunity for them to record their voice and then hear themselves played back, which is just something that in the past has been not the most available feature. Now everyone's really used to microphones, so hopefully that gets better for our kiddos. But we just kind of wanted to take a minute to pause and talk about, if Flipgrid is something you think you might be able to use in your practice. Constructions and geometry. Book talks. Book talks is a big one. Getting to know exercises. Yep, it's a wonderful opportunity because you see their faces and you learn their personalities. We actually have used it for a lot of school-wide events too this year. My librarian did like our whole back to school night on it. Every teacher did their recording for welcoming back students and parents as a Flipgrid video. And we had a whole playlist of them. So for the I don't want to make a video kiddos, usually you can get buy-in if you don't make them have their face in the video. So if you let them use like the stickers and emoticons and like cover their face up, because middle schoolers, I have middle schoolers, they don't want to be on camera. But if you let them have like a smiley face head instead of their head, they'll usually tell you what their book was about and quite gladly record. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and keep playing. We'll keep looking at these tools.
showcase some ways that I have used Discovery Education in my virtual learning environment, as well as how I plan to use it in the future. Here on the screen is an example of a studio board in Discovery Education. Right now, 8th grade students are learning about the periodic table and how it's classified and organized. And in this studio board, students could use this as an assignment. I could assign it for out-of-class asynchronous work, or it works quite well for collaborative. And in this particular board, I would show students a video clip for 2 minutes and 48 seconds about metals. It will describe metals, its physical characteristics, and its chemical properties. We would then discuss and be able to type in here one characteristic of metal, also a characteristic of non-metal. This pattern would continue with us watching a video about metalloids. In this video, there's an application and discussion. In this video, there's an application and discussion of semiconductors and computers using silicon, where silicon is in the periodic table, how we would describe it. Then, in addition, there is a follow-up assignment where I could give students, ask them to find a metal from the periodic table and answer these questions. Why is my element a metal? What are its characteristics? How is my element useful for people? So this is a particularly helpful tool in Discovery Education because it combines the interactive experience with the visual learning. Another example of how Discovery Education can be helpful is for professional development. This is an example of a studio board that I made to follow up with an article we were assigned to be better informed about childhood trauma and how to be a trauma-informed school. This is the citation for the article, 5 Key Components of Traumatic Impact from Psychology Today. Discovery happens to have what's called a PD cafe, and here is an article that would be very helpful for helping teachers respond to trauma in your classroom. Discovery also has a wide assortment of virtual field trips for all grade levels, and this could be very helpful in a hybrid or virtual environment. Thank you, and I hope this has been helpful.
So I'm a little bit obsessed with Discovery. I'm a DEN ambassador for Discovery. Peggy also is a DEN ambassador. But it's so underrated because everybody remembers United Streaming and all we think is, oh, it's video. But go and play on it. Like if you have access to Discovery, I urge you to take advantage because there's so much goodness in there. They've put in audiobooks and PD for teachers and just endless, limitless, boundless, amazing resources available. So strongly urge everyone to check it out if they haven't been in there in the last like 3 or 4 months, because in July they rolled out a whole mess of new amazing opportunities. And then really since March, when the pandemic hit, Discovery has reinvented itself doing all of its online PD. And instead of having to go to conferences across the country, across the world, you can get it all right there. So definitely urge you to check it out. But we wanted to just kind of take a second to pause here and say, has anybody thought about how they could utilize some of those Discovery resources, or have you been utilizing those Discovery resources? I know in my building we're using the audiobooks because we can't get physical books in the hands of our kids, but we can use those audiobooks and get book groups put up together around those audiobooks.
And the audiobooks, can you hear me okay? Okay. The audiobooks are really nice. Also, there's like Hunger Games and some of those scary
Goosebumps, Edgar
and-
Allan Poe, like high
Yeah,
interest
I
stuff.
thought I saw some Harry Potter somewhere in there, but I'm not exactly sure where that fit in. But they're broken into little chapters, and so they're not like, you don't have this full audiobook that you have to try to pull down off of the internet or share out. They're in little chunks, and Discovery Ed is really good about chunking things into segments so that you don't have 45 minutes of video with the lights out and you're losing them, but you have segments, and you have there's really good strategies in there also.
There's nice high quality instruction available. They've put an entire assessment tool together. So if you don't have an assessment tool for giving virtual assessments, online tests and such, you can use Discovery's videos, and they've built tests to go back to their content and like the curriculum that they have inside of their program. So it's already kind of done there for you. And they're making it as close to Nearpod as they can in their board builder tools. They're giving you presentation tools that you can then create almost a Nearpod-like experience with your kids. They're not there yet, but they're headed that way. And it's not going to cost you what Nearpod costs you if your division's already paying for Discovery Ed. So just something to kind of keep in the back of your mind. And that's our next tool. Our next tool is Nearpod, which is a paid tool. And we were trying to kind of balance that, if it's paid, if it's unpaid, if it's something most people have access to, in this conversation about what we want to keep when we return, because we want to keep the things that are good, that are, functioning, and that are mostly available to all of us. So this Nearpod tool, we know it's paid, and we are going to show you some of the features of the paid. There is a free version, but the paid version of Nearpod gives you a lot more power. So when you look at this, you will see some of the things that you can't do on the free version, but I urge you to check out Nearpod if you can, because it's super
Yeah,
amazing.
I used it as a free version for a lot of years before we bought it. And so it's an awesome tool, even if it's at the free level. So
yeah,
enjoy.
All right, go check it out.
To share my thoughts on Nearpod, and this is a program I absolutely love. I use all the time. It is kind of like a PowerPoint, but it allows you to be a little bit more interactive with the kids with some of the tools that it has. It's easy to use, which I like, and I think it'll be a great tool going back and forth between the school upon the re-entry into the school and virtually. Even now virtually, it's great. I'm able to provide the lesson live and then give the kids a student-paced version that they can interact with, which on their own, asynchronously at home. So if they miss class, or if they need to review some of the information that you gave and they can't remember it, they can always access this and go through it at their own pace. You can provide different games. You can provide different things into it. Some of the things that I plan on using when I get back into the classroom. I'll give you a brief overview real quick. Are some of these tools they have in here. So there's several things I use on a daily basis. When you go in here, one of them is adding video. So adding a video to your Nearpod is pretty simple. I use a lot of videos, short little snippets, to help modify some of the concepts with the kids. So you can type in and you can search through your own videos, upload your own videos, YouTube. You can search in anything you want. Say I want to teach the Persian Empire, I can type in Persian Empire into YouTube and it searches it, it brings up these videos, and it's as easy as clicking on it and hitting save, and it will put the video into my presentation. Some other things that I'm going to use as well in here is, especially when it comes to reviewing and it comes to getting kids participation in review activities. There's one called Time to Climb, which I really, really enjoy, and the kids love it. When we were in person, I use it in person, they would ask to do this all the time. So basically you build these questions and they're fun. They have characters, they get to pick their character and they are racing to the top of the mountain. Each time they get a question right, they move forward, and they really, really enjoy doing that. Another thing that I use a lot is the collaborative board, which is where you can post a question and the kids can post their thoughts to it. It kind of looks like a bulletin board. You can pick different styles when you do it. And this is another great tool I use during lessons, something I will use when we go back in. And it just helps that you can gain a quick understanding if the kids have grasped what you're talking about, by the answers that they're throwing up on the board. And yes, you do get to approve the answers before they go up, so you're not getting inappropriate responses. And it's easy. I've gotten a couple where you just hit decline and then ask them to put a new question in there, and it works great. Where is Kate's? Another tool I use that is fantastic is the virtual 3D tour field trip. So when you click on this, you can type in different places to go. So like, go here, you can hit preview, and then the kids can take a 3D virtual trip of certain places you're talking about, and they can actually see firsthand where you're talking about, what you're doing in class and all that. And I think that's a fantastic thing. So between all these tools, and there's other things in here that I just have not gotten into because those tools have worked great. You have your vocabulary, you have Nearpod 3D, which 3D is pretty cool. It's limited, but it allows them to take a 3D of different places. So I haven't really gotten into this too much, but it'll allow them to, look at places and see, that they normally wouldn't see, or see how they used to be. So this is a very powerful tool. It's a great tool. I think it'll do a good job. It'll be helpful when you use this transitioning back into school. It has everything you need, from teaching synchronously to allowing the kids to revisit it when they're at home. It also gives you a lot of different tools to help enhance your lesson and help the students gain mastery of what they are talking about. So yes, so going back into the classroom, we'll be using all these tools. Probably be adding a couple more that I showed you in there. But yeah, it will help make the transition back from virtual. The kids like it virtually. They loved it in person because you can even give them an iPad, and instead of having to watch everything on the smart board and say, I can't see that, I can't hear that, they have it in front of them. The slides change on the iPads as the lesson goes on, which makes it, the kids are like, please teach every lesson like this. I'm like, great, we'll do it. This is what we're going to do. So bringing this from virtual into the classroom will be a seamless transition, and it'll be a great tool to use.
Great, so that kind of wraps our video, but we just wanted to share those 3 resources that we think are going to be so impactful and powerful as we keep going with our future and kind of get back to our old normal and what is our new normal and figuring that out. We're here if you need to contact us anytime. You can reach out to us and, you know.
We have a couple of minutes left. If you have questions, you can type them in the chat, or if you raise your hand, we can give you the microphone. Thank you very much for this. Yeah, this is something I think everybody needs to be thinking about. What happens next? Because you know, hopefully we're not going to be in this situation forever. So.
Right. They're still talking like we're going back in our division.
Hard.
Well,
we've all worked really, really hard to make sure that, you know, we're growing our skills, we're growing our pedagogy. We've worked really hard as teachers across this state and across this nation for 6 months.
And going like way above and beyond. Like no one should have ever had to take on the challenge that all of our teachers have, and in this very sink or swim way. But you know, these are 3 ways we think we can make life easier for you now. And if you keep these practices, keep this going, we think it'll make life easier going forward too. So that's what we really wanted to share.
Okay. I don't see any questions, so I'm going to stop the recording.